Hi everyone, this is Samrat Kishor here. I welcome you all to the Baseline Show once again. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and for those of you who've joined us in the studio. Um, today is a show that we've crafted in continuation with the theme from previous General Assembly, which was cybersecurity. We picked up cybersecurity and we spoke about the various aspects around multi-body workflows. We do this baseline show every Wednesday at noontime EST, which is 6 o'clock in Central European time and 10:30 p.m. in India. Thank you so much, guys. Keith, Andreas, Mark, Yoav, and Sonal who tuned in today in the live studio. And we have our special guest, Yev from Hacken. Hacken is a well-known cybersecurity auditor for the Web3 world. Some of the most interesting projects I've seen have been audited by them. And I will leave it to Yev to talk a little more about her background, her motivations to do what she's doing at Hacken, and the journey so far. Yev is a very well known leader in the cybersecurity world, also in the EEA forums now, in the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance forums now, and with her contributions to ETH Trust. And she's got 10 plus years of cybersecurity experience, and she's presently the co-founder and CBDO of Hacken. Welcome, Yev, to the Baseline Show. Thank you so much for accepting our invite. And yeah, tell us more about yourself, your background, your motivation for doing this.
Hi everyone, thank you. Thank you for introduction. Definitely I'll be happy to share how I actually got here. I started my cybersecurity career 10 years ago when I just decided to study at cybersecurity department in university. And back then in 2012, there were almost nothing regarding security that we have now, because the most security was about banks and policies, compliances, and nothing about real stuff like web application security, like real exploits, real vulnerabilities. And back then in Ukraine, we had like 10 companies probably for the whole country dealing with mostly bank related stuff. And definitely it was not something that I was interested in. So I started looking for any knowledge I can get out of every possible place. And I found guys who were like teaching ethical hacking actually, and started this course with them. It was different initiatives by EC-Conceal, OWASP, and other organizations that were providing knowledge to like new students. And yeah, I started my career from that back then, and also passed certifications like certified ethical hacker and other security related stuff. Finished my master degree in cybersecurity, and already when I was I don't remember, probably first year of my education, I met guys who were very curious in doing ICO, doing security, and helping others to find vulnerabilities. And in 2017, we founded Hacken together with my partners. They both have either financial or cybersecurity background, and we did ICO in 2017. Gathered a lot of hackers who were helping to find vulnerabilities in different crypto products back then. And yeah, that's how our journey started. And since that time, we've been through different situations, but at the end of the day, we are 120 people now. I have main office in Lisbon, have a lot of great minds, technical talents, who is every day looking for vulnerabilities and code flows in our customer products. We work with a lot of companies from top coin market cap with different protocols, wallets, DeFi's, and other. Yeah, and what we do on the daily basis is just analyze the code and look for vulnerabilities that can prevent another million hack, and help companies to do this in advance. So it's kind of proactive approach to security. And we do this on multiple levels. Pretty sure we can just discuss this afterwards. Yeah, just in short, that's how I started and what we do now here at Hacken.
Awesome. And that reminds me about your situation with Ukraine and the way you to shift the whole operations out to a different country. Kudos to that.
Yes,
I think
that last year was quite life-changing for us, I would say, because before we were sitting in Kiev in office, having around 40 people. Yeah, and 10 days before the war started, we made a decision to move the team to Barcelona first, where we spent around a month, and now afterwards that we moved to Lisbon, where we started the office and all operations, and we have some team members here. But the most interesting that as for now, before we were like almost purely Ukrainian employees, now we have people from 16 countries, which work in different directions and work in different markets, and it's pretty cool for us to become that global and that fast.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, so I think I like the kind of work when you all started. I think 2018 was when I had bought the tokens. So and yeah, it's been showing results and the kind of plans you all have. So do you also want to talk a little about your the various offerings that you have, the whole bouquet, and of course the most recent ones. You were one of the first companies who was talking about proof of reserves when I saw the CEO on Twitter talking about, you should do proof of reserves. And by the way, we have that service listed on our website. That was pretty fast.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely, because I mean it's something that we were thinking a long time ago. One of our products called the crypto exchange ranks. It was called like that. Now it's crypto ecosystem ranks, which is about the ranking of security of different projects, because we truly believe the industry is still very far from being any secure. And we started doing this product in late 2018. And at that time, it was really too early for this kind of engagements. And only after 2 years, in 2020, I guess, we started working with CoinGecko and providing them data about security of all crypto exchanges first. And last year, we released the rating for 1,000 crypto projects. So what we do, we gather actually all the public and not public information about the security engagements which projects do, and their security mechanisms on their platform, how they manage data, how they manage money, how they manage documents and other stuff. And it's something that's a regular user, not having any deep knowledge, can just go to aggregator like CoinGecko and just check that on the security tab. At least it gives you some understanding of the security of the project, because a lot of users don't understand how to select which exchange they should just give their money, or which protocol they should interact with, and where it's like less risky. Of course, every time is about risk, but you should be aware what projects actually do to minimize these risks. And if you are talking about the services we provide, so we believe in the complex approach and defense in depth, because it's not about just checking my smart contract or something like that. We believe that it should be checked on the multiple levels. In general, what projects should consider regarding security, it's not about smart contracts at the end of the day, because first it starts from people, from the processes, from the management, internal team, external teams, then going to application level, then to network level. So that's like in the complex system. And we take care of blockchain protocols, wallets, crypto exchanges, and smart contracts. It's more on the application level what we do now. So what we do, we provide source code review actually of smart contracts and protocols. We do smart contract audits for different chains, like EVM-based chains, like also Near, Solana, and others. What we do as well, we do L1 audits, so we check the consensus mechanisms, nodes, infrastructure, cryptography, and all that. Also, what we do, we test the in the front end, which is application level web security. And something that we started doing recently, definitely, it's like proof of reserves, because we see that apparently having just web application security is not enough. Some crypto exchanges starting doing this before. It was, I don't know, not that before, but having at least insurance funds like Binance has or others. They have this insurance in case anything happens. But apparently it's also not enough, because we need to understand that it's about reserves that exchanges have and their liabilities. And we recently started doing that because we work with a lot of exchanges. We understand their pains in terms of finance and security, and that's where we can be helpful. And this is for like financial audits. And also I want to touch the topic that's in crypto. I would say the word audit is kind of changed from what we have in traditional markets. I'm pretty sure, Samrat, working with, in Web2 and saying audit is something really meaningful and very complex, that you analyze tons of parameters and just think about ISO audit. That's crazy amount of things that you need to check. And in crypto, it became more simple, just, audit of tokens, smart contract, but definitely it's not enough to be sure in anything. And I really like what guys from C4 does. They provide this cryptocurrency security standard, where they discuss in general what should be in a crypto company. And also another initiative from Ethereum Enterprise Alliance. We are part of 2 working groups, which is one drama for a risk in DeFi and accounting. And this group solves the problem of audits, because this is like guys from traditional audit backgrounds, and they understand how to adopt audit into Web3, being substantial and meaningful. And they now at the development stage, what should be considered as risks for DeFi and how to minimize them, how to audit them, and how to prevent them. And another group for Ethereum Enterprise Alliance is about standardization for Ethereum security, for audits, for smart contract audits. And it's something where we actively contribute to be sure that everyone works on the market for the kind of same methodology, and we at least sure in the basic stuff that should be covered. And and as the last step, what we have now, after everything like with internal teams done, with external teams done, we also provide crowdsourced security. We have our bug bounty platform called Hackerproof, where we have, I don't know how much now, but should be around 15K security researchers from more than 100 countries that actually report vulnerabilities in different crypto projects. We have, for example, Near, KuCoin, and other guys with us on the platform, Avalanche. And what actually we do, we facilitate this relationship between hackers and security teams of the protocols to be sure that they are on the same page, managing the expectations, vulnerabilities correctly, and also help the customers to understand how they can actually benefit from hackers, not being the threat, but being hackers on their side who help them to prevent something that cyber criminals could do to them, and being able to be the first who get the information about the vulnerabilities.
Right. No, that's a great initiative, and thank you for all the contributions. I do read that standard a lot, and I'm sure it's going to cause a lot of industry-wide impact. Thank you for all the contributions to EA as well. Okay, so and then we could now sort of move towards a little bit of the subject that we had thought about in mind, which is multi-party workflows, digital supply chains. So, what are the general trends that you see which companies are currently using for securing these digital supply chains, or anything in particular which you've seen, which is prevailing across, and there are things which may be less exploited. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
I think that companies still don't understand a lot about the security in terms of how it could be beneficial, because it's not clear ROI on security until anything happens. And companies still tend to do bare minimum that they need to do because someone else asked for this. For example, if we are talking about security audits, like smart contract audits, they can be listed on the exchange without audit. They probably won't get funding without audits. They won't can get to IDO platform without audit. So it's something that industry pushes them to do. but in the reality, it's not enough. And I would say that multi-parties involve different stakeholders, because in crypto, I mean, we're all so decentralized, and that's another point of problems, how to manage all these connections, all the accounts, all the passwords, something in really primitive level, all the communication, because a lot of teams use Discord, Slack, Telegram, whatsoever, and it's also a problem how to manage these accounts. Because, for example, from the bug bounty standpoint, we've seen quite a few vulnerabilities where just, Slack API key were left somewhere open, and someone was able to get access to all the internal communication or something like that. Some phishing in Discord, and it's growing. And I would say that companies should think about more on the high level, that's about threat modeling and the assets they have. And then based on that, not just, some small part that someone pushes them to do, but more on the complex manner. Because I remember from university that professors pushed us to, to make the complex assessment of the system, being able to identify all the assets, all the potential risks to every asset, and mitigation steps. And I think that's something that companies should do. Unfortunately, I haven't seen much companies doing that, but I remember one mind map from one crypto exchange that has this asset, and to every asset they have the like risk factors and what they do. They even have the risk of founders being I don't know, something happens to founders, or who the person who manages the keys. And it's also worth to mention that's like operation security is a big part of what we have now. If we look back, for example, for recent hacks, and I think that with exchanges is getting better, but in terms of operation security, the problem is still insiders, some employees, or just missed keys in the open space, or the companies who don't have the proper onboarding and offboarding processes, and how the actually accounts is managing. So I believe that operation security is something that is a big risk, probably not that visible and clear for everyone at once as vulnerability in smart contract. Because let's be honest, if something happens in smart contract, everyone knows about that in a minute, because a lot of guys just monitoring contracts and post this on Twitter, and everyone knows about something going on. And if we just compare that to bank system, for example, what is the chance that you would know that in a week at least, that something happened to your money?
Yeah.
You will likely never find out.
Yeah.
No, you will not, because they will make you whole, which they have to by law. And every banking system is compromised right now. They just don't know it, right? And severely, right? So it's like there's nothing. I know a few guys who are happily rummaging right now through various banking systems. Ever tried shaving something at the 18th decimal point? If you do that consistently for years, it makes you a shit ton of money.
Wow.
Yeah,
and that's a big difference in crypto and in like traditional bank systems, where you just don't know what's going on. It's like security is for obscurity, but in crypto everything is transparent. Everyone see your wallets, everyone see what's going on with smart contracts and money. And I guess it's good for everyone, because it's transparent, you understand what's going on, and being able to prevent that and actually learn on your mistakes. Because what we see, even in crypto, which is not that, old market, let's say, we see the standards coming, we see the tools coming for preventing stuff, and based on the learnings they had before. Because, it's like 5 years we are actively on smart contract security, and every year it's something new, but still the basics are quite the same. And there are already a lot of recommendations, tests, toolings, how to prevent all these vulnerabilities from happening. And I guess it's good. And the industry is still under the kind of making up, and that's where everyone can contribute. And still, we are so few auditors on the market and so many companies. I guess it's it's a good place to be in terms of knowledge and in terms of contribution.
Yeah.
One simple thing that no one does is like, how do you know that the smart contract that's deployed is actually the smart contract that you published? Right? There's simply
a good question.
That's just not there, right? So it's like there's also no tooling that shows you directly, here it is, and this is click on the hash, and it actually shows you the code hash on the account. Do they match?
Yeah.
Right?
Actually,
does it actually produce the same code hash when I check the code that you put in front of me? No.
That's interesting. I just mentioned before that our initiative was CER, and that's been a part of our research actually. Just let me check the numbers. That's 33% of top 1,000 projects. That 33% of projects have the deployed code and audited code are different. It was the statistics of last year. And it's very interesting. There are already tooling, and it's on our roadmap to make it live, to show like what's the real code on GitHub and audited code, and what's the overlap actually between this. Because we also had these cases during our auditing experience that companies receive audits, fix stuff, and then they decided to do another feature or something. They deploy another unaudited code, and of course, after that something happens, and who is responsible for them? Of course, auditors, because no one just go in details and see that it was different commit with different code. And we've been to these situations quite a few times. And I mean, it's about responsibility in the companies, because somehow it's the industry decided that responsibility should be on auditors, but auditors is just a part of how to minimize risks. There are a lot of other procedures that should be done by companies to prevent that, not by auditors. And another interesting statistics from this research from Crypto Exchange ranks that only 40% of projects have the platform audit. What means by platform audit was that every project, when they are launching, they have the token audit, and that's all. But then they develop the product itself and the different stakings, farming, so on and whatsoever, and it's not audited. And they just continue doing stuff on their token audits. And
they don't have their Web 2 audited, right?
That's another question.
Nothing,
and
right?
I used to think that
you used EKS, how do you manage your EKS secrets?
Yeah.
Right. It's like who actually holds, it's like, how do you manage keys? Key management is the dirty secret of crypto. Ask ZK rollups who actually manages their private keys of the user.
Yeah, that's a great question. And generally about operation security and at least how password is managed within the teams. I think it's also important to know that.
Yeah, convenience over security for sure. But I used to think, this is very interesting research, that you presented, because I used to think all these issues exist for Web 2 companies, and it happens all the time. Most of the times when we do audits, it's one version of the code getting audited, some other version being penetration tested, and some third version getting deployed in production. So it happens all the time. I've even seen somebody, I of course cannot take names, but I've even seen a company. What they were doing was, we were performing audit on a particular segment of the code, new application getting deployed. They produce a VAPT report to us, and I was like, yeah, okay, the VAPT is done already, so that means your environment is ready. No. The environment is not ready. When you approve the code, then we're going to make the servers live, because it is going to cost us, right, to get the servers up and running and stuff like that. So, okay, so then what's with the VAPT report? Oh no, this is from the staging environment. So so what's the point? What's the point of all this, right? So it happens all the time in the erstwhile applications of the Web2 world, so to say. But it's interesting to see, the same things continue for Web3 audits as well. This is a learning for me.
Processing billions of dollars through a collection of access databases that are entirely unaudited and that was developed by one or two individuals who are either retired or dead is extremely common. Having accounts in production for the VP of engineering to do hot fixes in production that do not go through the QA process of publicly traded companies in order to meet the month end or quarter end or year end close deadline. Not unheard of. I've seen that personally. I've gotten calls from CFOs about that. It's like, if you talk about that, it's like you will never walk again, right? It's fun. The good thing about like things in the crypto world is like there's enough people know who you are, and enough people are scrupulous enough to not send people after you and your family that works as a significant deterrent.
Yeah, I can say that. Say that. And then there's Satoshi.
I also think that from what we see, the frustrating part, especially for security specialists that doing audits, when the company coming to recheck or to another annual audit, they still see the same bugs they reported last year or last engagement. And I mean, that's a question. But anyway, and another interesting statistics that from all the 1,000 companies, only 1.2%. The companies who has both audits, relevant audits, like bounty, insurance, penetration testing. So it's not that much. I believe this data is a bit outdated already. Still, we have better numbers, should have better numbers now. But that's where the industry, and from our experience working with the various clients, I would say that there are really few clients that do things wisely and think about security in advance, that plan security, that they have security specialists inside, or at least they work with different providers. They understand what they want from security and how to manage this properly. I guess all the best practices that we have from Web 2 should be definitely applied and adopted in Web 3 to be able to to ensure better level of security. And for example, this cryptocurrency security standard and the certification, I guess a good step towards that.
You talk a little more about that. So I think two things which I picked up, which are interesting for me, is one is the threat modeling that you spoke about, the entity level mapping of various threats and vulnerabilities. So what would that look like for a Web3 company? Maybe you could spend 5 minutes on that. And maybe also expand a little more on the C4 certification that you just mentioned.
Yeah, I would say, as I mentioned, it's good to have the complex threat model for all the assets. And if we just stop and think what typical crypto project is about definitely internal team, communities and investors. It's about the product itself. It could be web application, mobile application, smart contracts, protocols, some piece of code, and also operations. And if there is we talk about physical offices, something like that, at least these basics. And we should think about even some trivial stuff like having your legally registered trademarks and logos. Something that we used to deal is phishing, and if you have this, you would be able to block these fake resources way faster rather than not having this stuff. And this is just a small part of kind of operational security. I would not say probably operation, but from the security standpoint that you don't think until you would need that. And also in terms of employees and subcontractors, I guess it's a big part of every project right now. And who you work with, who are these guys? Because we had the cases when the product owners, they don't know who they work with because it was anonymous developers. You don't know who they are, where they are, what they do with their code. But I don't know why people do this, why they rely on something like this. The project you would, work with like billions to rely this piece of code to someone you just don't know, don't understand. And we had cases when developers just disappeared, stole money from this code or something like that, or had backdoors. Yeah, that's happening. I mean, at least be sure that people you work with is something that you can rely on, and they are knowledgeable enough and skilled enough to do what you need them to do. Because we also had another case with the exchange that were outsourced to some company, and literally CTO didn't understand what we want from them, because we did source code review and we were teaching him how to make architecture correctly and how to fix issues. That's definitely not a good approach to building products and security. And if you have this at this basic level, I don't know what you would have, and more enhanced, because when you scale your errors as well and your vulnerabilities. So as for example, security specialists, if they know that this project has like a lot of vulnerabilities submitted, they would go there because they understand the quality of the product and it's like easy to find vulnerabilities, and they would definitely find more.
Right.
If we are talking about the C4, they have a lot of interesting certifications. They have certified Ethereum professional, certified Bitcoin professional, and now they have this cryptocurrency security standard auditor. Our CEO and some engineers just received this month, and not much companies and specialists have this now. But I believe that this year that's become huge, because we see all these cases, what's going on with crypto, and it's not about security anymore. It's about financial audits as well. And these areas that this certification includes is like information security audit, they have there's like policies that should be applied to businesses, and what they need to do to prevent risks associated with the project.
Right. Exciting. This is very exciting. And I mean, while you've covered some part of it, what I'm going to ask, but what are the most frequently seen vulnerabilities that you see when you're auditing these projects that you audit in the Web3 world? So what should be the first three to five things that people should fix on their own, before even calling the auditors?
PEPCAC? Problem exists between computer and chair?
That's for sure number one in any system, in any Web 2 or any Web 3. That's true. I would say that from the part we see and we work every day with, because it's my contracts, is that it's good to have understanding what you are building. Because what we see, taking into account the pace of the industry and how fast you need to do things, you would have one information on the website, another one on the white paper, third one in the technical documentation, fourth one in the test cases, and something else in the code. And it's been a problem because the speed with everything changed, you can't adopt to all the resources. And the situation that we recently have, for example, that the code itself and the test which covers the code are not the same what's written in the documentation. And you can understand what's going on this code because you can just guess. And it takes a lot of time. And if you are taking that seriously and planning actually for the project to have future, you definitely need to do things right from the beginning, because it's just, getting bigger, and problems are getting bigger and bigger if you don't have proper documentation, if you don't have proper tests, and if you don't cover the code with tests and actually do some comments and other stuff. That's first, because all the major and interesting issues, I would say, on the logic level, because if you haven't planned the logic correctly, you withdraw more money that's needed, money withdrawn by someone else, and other stuff. That's the first big, I would say, category of vulnerabilities, which is logic. The second would be technical vulnerabilities, like different, like reentrancy attacks, rounding errors, and other stuff. Yeah, and something, next category would be something more like sophisticated, but it's a really small percentage of that. And I really like that we have this Trust group and EEA, which try to categorize things, provide tests for each type of issues. And also there is another standardization, actually, vulnerabilities in smart contracts. It's CWA or E, I don't remember the name, but it has all the typical vulnerabilities which happens in smart contracts, the test cases which cover this type of issues, and how to prevent that. At least it's good to utilize this experience to build better smart contracts in terms of security.
Exciting. I'm glad you mentioned the logic at number one, because I was deeply surprised by what happened with Terra Luna, and that whole, in fact, and look at all the algorithmic stablecoins, and I'm like, yeah, this is very interesting to note, and the way it unfolded was very surprising. So and what's the state of documentation in these projects that you see? I mean, because where we are coming from is why I'm asking you that question, because in baseline protocol we try and talk to a lot of enterprises, and enterprises are known for documentation. Enterprises are known for having ISMS and around some systems around their, some information security documentation around their systems of record, which eventually we intend to synchronize or baseline. So, but what's the level of documentation that you see when you're auditing these either Web 2 or Web 3 part of the projects?
I would say it's like 20 to 80, that 20 projects with whom we work. Now, honestly, this number is growing, because now we just don't work with the projects who doesn't have documentation, because we're just tired of that. It takes a lot of time to get to understand something, all the communication, and the projects usually don't understand what's going on with their code if they don't have at least proper documentation.
Okay.
Yeah, so now we see better documentation, but still it's far from covering let's say the kind of best practices of documentation, but at least describe logic and what this contract should do and how this interacts with other contracts, and some general architecture that really helps to understand what's going on, and test coverage as well.
Right.
That's definitely not the priority of the projects to have documentation, because they just need to release something fast to get money, to get new users. But still, if there's some resource allocated to do this properly, that would something that would have future.
I have two questions for you. I mean, obviously documentation is a big thing, and yes, I've been there. It's like if you're it's like documentation in code is poor. It's like test coverage is poor typically. If they even have like tests, or it's like, what do you mean you have no test for that function? Are you kidding me? Right. So, but it's hard. Try to get to 100% test coverage, line coverage for a large smart contract system. That's really hard to get through. But in the end, you have to do it. But it costs a lot of money. But two questions, right? So, are you also doing like economic security analysis? And so it's like a game theoretic analysis on the one hand. Also, and then the other thing, which is of course getting bigger and bigger, are zero knowledge prover systems. Are you actually auditing libraries?
Okay, got it. So yes, for cryptography and libraries, of course, we do this. And for example, recently we started working with Polygon ZK EVM and passed their education program for auditors. And that's something that started recently. We do mostly cryptographic audits as itself when we do L1 audits, when we go deep to the protocol, to the consensus level, how the nodes interact. And sometimes customers ask to check the cryptography. Is this something made from scratch, not using, some well-known libraries, for example? And as for tokenomic audits and like economic audits, we do this basically on the smart contract auditing part when checking the business logic, how it all would work. But also something that we are started recently is like tokenomics audit of different simulations, economics, and how this work on scale and in time.
Yeah. That's where we're, besides the obvious hack, but that's where a lot of money is lost, because you can just simply drain the pools, and you can't stop it until you figure it out. It was one of the issues with Luna.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think it's a big topic because having the security and kind of technical audit, and having economic modeling and the economic threats, that's another question. And I think that in the next bull run, we would have more requirements to audits and projects, having not only token security audit, but more like economic model, financial audit of the project, if it's capable actually of delivering what they promise, and of course security. I would say that it would be getting better and better, but we need to go through all these stages to understand where is this points that prevent us from being good, successful industry.
Yeah, I wish Big Four was so thorough in doing their audits.
So the one of another question that I have, and that's related to ZK prover system, right? That whole sector is moving extremely fast, and you basically have, it's different implementations of Plonk and so forth. They're all off of the published articles, but they're using different libraries. They roll their own because they have to, because it doesn't exist, right? It's like they're coming up with their own curves with Grumpkin or what have you not. So it's like that is extremely non-trivial, right? And I would say there's maybe a handful of people in the world that can actually do that reliably. So how do you find those people? And not pay them $1,000 an hour, right?
That's a good question. So when it comes to cryptography and all the stuff you mentioned, we find these people with the most academic backgrounds and development experience. That's, I would say, a good mix, which is really difficult to find. And still we were able to form the team who is doing that, and moving step by step. And I also would say that it's about getting experience and sharing this experience between different companies. And what we do, for example, in smart contract audits, we have the kind of friendly relationship with other auditors and sharing some stuff, how we approach things, vulnerabilities that we found, and other. And I would say it's still really relatively new, and there would be definitely more interesting stuff coming, because a lot of projects just releasing their first versions right now. And that even less people who are able to understand and do this reliably, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, just making sure that in a ZK EVM that you're actually computing the execution trace correctly is extremely non-trivial. If you actually look at specifications, whether that's from Consensus or Hermes, it's okay, it's show me how you implement that without an error, and I believe in Santa Claus, at least on the first go around, right?
What
so
about
certification
you? How do you think it could be addressed? Do you have any ideas that you can share?
So you will have to build the tools for that, right? You will have to do the fuzzing tools. You'll have to do the with test cases where you know what needs to come out, like using standard things like taking ERC20, right? And run the test. And then, you know, they should come out A, the same way, and B, it should be you have to have the proofs for every op, right? And what that's hard. The other thing is really the correct crypto implementation, right? Most implementations of simple ECDSA are not secure because they will leak information because primarily you don't do memory management properly. That's the number one risk factor. And doing a proper analysis of memory management without tooling support is extremely hard. And there's a dearth of like tooling that looks for memory leakage based on established sort of like implementation guidelines, right? It's like, especially when you're looking at like, especially when you're doing like JavaScript, it's right.
And what do you think about talents that would be able to do all that? How to probably grow them?
So there is a significant lack of educational programs. Like it's like one of the things that I'm you know, working together with the Ethereum Foundation. One of the things that we've identified and we want to do in the ecosystem development is creating more educational resources, free educational resources, right? That people can go through certification programs that are, you know, created by people who actually know what they're doing. But that is sort of like a catch-22, because if they're created by people who know what they're doing, then these people aren't doing security audits and are not improving the tooling. So it's like, you know, it's like you're taking one hand away from a hole to put it on another, because there's water coming in. So unless you have more hands to put on the holes, there's like it will take time. And also larger companies starting to build the talent, right? With larger companies, I mean the likes of Google and Amazon and, you know, Microsoft. The problem is, you know, the good Microsoft researchers and security guys, they're just putting their feet up and are having a good day, because they're like, you know what, it's like I have my retirement sewn up, right? It's like, why should I go out and you know, it's like deal with some super annoying 25, 30-year-olds who have absolutely no clue what they're doing, right? Think they know everything. Like, no, why am I putting myself through that pain? Unless you pay me $1 million a year, yeah, and you're prepaying 3 years. So it's like otherwise, no. So it will take time to grow that talent, to get young people involved, to get young people, and the university system also needs to start realizing that is in computer science, that cybersecurity is like the most important aspect, because you learn the most. Literally, if you want to learn how to code, that's the best way how to do it.
I agree on that. And as far as we also like building talents, because that's not far in the market, and it's also a dilemma of you're doing audits or contributing to tooling, methodology, standards, and it's all the time that you need to make priorities.
Charge more and use the extra time to have people, no, to hire young people who are talented, and then let them ride shotgun. And the clients have pay for that, right? I mean, it's like, it's like my hourly rate is not determined by the fact that is determined by the fact that I've done this shit for like 20 plus years.
Yeah, totally agree.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So
interesting thought, Andreas. And I think it will do good for the entire industry.
Yeah, and it's like you know
way.
what, if you raised $50 million on a 500 million or 100 million on a billion plus valuation, you can afford to pay up the Pied Piper, right? It's like so you pay, right? I'm happy to pay for high quality auditors, happily, and a significant portion of that, the same way that I'm happy to pay for highly qualified lawyers. They tell every project 20% of your raise is going to go to lawyers, guaranteed. If you have not budgeted that, you made a huge mistake. It's like it's by definition, right? I mean, it's simple budgeting, and you need significant portion of that for your audit, 10% at least.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just
awesome.
yeah, no, I mean, it's like if you don't do it, you will get screwed, right? Yeah. And it's like that's right. It's like look at the bridges, right? It's like it's absolute insanity.
Yeah.
Right. It's like it's where it's like you're moving billions, and that is what you're doing. I mean, okay, I'm not gonna get started on like Solana and Solana precompiles, but or the lack thereof. Those are things where it's just mind blowing, but it's VCs are also not doing their job, right? Where they're asking user funds, right? And if you have a project that does not already allocate to legal and security audits, and that is moving money, right? It's just not serious. It's just shouldn't be funded. And the problem is VCs are behaving like hedge funds, right? So they're basically doing they're basically pushing you to do a token, no matter what. Get the token, wash it, exit, right? So they can exit in 3 to 6 months rather than 3 to 5 years. Redo.
Yeah, repeat. Simple. But
no, I mean that's how they behave, right? So it's malpractice. So the VC behavior encourages malpractice.
You can say that. Yeah. So in a way, I was actually at some point in time on the show, I was thinking of getting in the bridges topic, but yeah, I thought probably for the next time. So yeah, we're going to cover that maybe in a future show. So I think we're at the end of today's hour, and really great discussion. I think we could just go on this subject. There's so much to discuss, and there's so much to be done still, right, in this area. So thank you so much. Yeah, I was hoping to bring in, in the end, I was hoping to bring in your contributions towards the ETH trust standard, and I think over your talk you've covered some bits and pieces here and there. But just maybe one final question, which is on who is it most important for? Who should first pick it up and go through it and adopt it? Should be the auditors, or should be the project? Should be both at the same time? Or maybe some new companies which are thinking of baselining, because we are after companies or SaaS products or systems of record, even conventional ones like SAP, etc., whom we are trying to bring in to the baselining ecosystem. So is ETH Trust security standards relevant for them?
I would say that it's collaborative efforts of the projects and auditors, because you pay auditors for something that you can't do or you need external opinion, but not something that could be obvious and done, either automatically or prevented by standard stuff. So I would say that projects should be prepared for audits by utilizing best practices and standards, and auditors should have standards and their own practice that would contribute to the project security.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I think that brings us to the end of today's show. This was, I just didn't, someone said the same thing. I just didn't realize when the time flew by. I was just looking at my watch and I was like, oh, it's almost.
Security topic is
over.
Something that's.
It's endless. It's bottomless. So yeah, with that, we bring today's show to closure. But yeah, thank you so much for making time. And I know you're not well, so thanks for accommodating our request and coming still to the show. Maybe we'll have a part 2 on bridges. So when Igor is back. So let's plan for that in future. Thanks everybody who tuned in today. Thanks all of you who made it to the live studio, and for people who are watching us in future, do like and subscribe this video and subscribe to our channel, and follow us on Twitter as well, Baseline Proto. For all information about Baseline Protocol, do visit baseline-protocol.org. This is us signing off for today. See you next Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Cheers.